Welcome to 2024's Preppin Data first challenge. Welcome to anyone who's new to Tableau Prep. So we'll start off this challenge, we'll build it together. So let's connect to that data set that we need. So I press this big blue button saying connect to data, and I need to know what file type I'm connecting to in order to start this workflow. So for this challenge, the file type is a CSV, and that comes under text file in the connection pane here. So let's click on text file, and then I'm just going to go find that file. It is 2024 week 1 input, open that up, and then I get this screen appearing. So already Tableau Prep by default has brought in an input step for us, and I can see some information here about the metadata of this dataset, so the field names, the field types, and a quick preview of some of the values that are in those fields. If you click on the blank space on the canvas here, that does disappear, but don't worry, you can always get it back by clicking on the step again, and I can see that window there. In order to see the data itself, we're going to follow Tableau Prep's recommendation here by adding in a clean step. So just hovering over that makes it kind of become a bit more solid, but then clicking makes that clean step actually appear. So now I can see a bit more information about my data. So I can see, for example, here that I have 4 fields, and it looks like I have 4,000 rows, but if I hover over, I get the precise number of 3,778 rows. And then I can see those 4 fields that I have: the flight details, the flow card, the bags checked, and the meal type. And I can start thinking about how I might clean this up. Now, personally, what I like to do when I build a Tableau Prep workflow is I like to leave this first clean step empty so that I can see the data as it's coming into Tableau Prep before I make any changes. And to indicate that, I often just rename this step from clean 1. I do a quick double click there and say view. And then I come to the little plus button next to that clean step, and I add in a new clean step. And that's where I'm going to start making the changes. So if I take a look now at the flight details field, then I can see that I've got quite a lot of data stored in this field. I've got the date, then 2 slashes, and then the flight number, 2 slashes, the route that it is taking, 2 slashes, the class, and 2 slashes, and then the price. So the way that what I want to do with this field is I want to make sure that all those pieces of information have their own separate field. So I'm going to go to my flight details field. I'm going to go to this 3 dots menu here, the more options, click on that, and then you'll see that we have this option, the 4th one down, for split values. And I could try an automatic split where Tableau Prep's going to guess how we want to split this up, but I'm going to go with a custom split so I have a bit more control over what's happening. So this new pop-up now appears, and it's asking us what is the separator. So at what point should a new field be made? So it's that double slash that is the common thing between each of those pieces of information. So I just type in double slash, and then it's asking how many fields do we want to be created from that. So we're going to select, rather than first or last, we're going to select all, so that every time a double slash is met, a new field gets created. And I'm just going to click on split there, and I now have these 5 fields come through. So I'm going to start renaming these fields so that I know what they are, because flight details split 1 isn't very descriptive. So I'll double click there to be able to rename this field. This is our date. I'm also going to at this point notice the fact that this date field is a string, and I can see that by the data type that's just above the header here. So I can click on that and I can actually change the data type, so change it from being a string to being a date. So I'll do that there. This is our flight number, so I'll just change that there. That can stay as a string. This one is our flight path, but actually this still has 2 pieces of information in it. So I'm going to repeat that splitting on a dash this time. So for this instance, I'm going to show you how the automatic split works. So if I go automatic split, then you can see that now I have these 2 fields created from there. And it might look a bit confusing just looking across. I might think London to London, how does that work? But if I look down below the date grid itself, you can see it is splitting up these flight paths into Tokyo, New York, Perth, New York, and so on and so forth. So now that I've done that, I can get rid of this original field. So I'm going to right click on it and click remove at the bottom there. And then I'll say from and to for these new fields that I've created there. This field here is the class, and this final one is the price. And similarly with the date, our price is a numeric value, but we can see it's actually currently being read as a string. So let's just change that to a number decimal. And now we have those decimal numbers coming through. I'm going to remove this flight details field as well, so right click and remove, since we've split out all the information we need from that into its own separate fields. So I'll rename this clean step as well for documentation purposes, so that I know that I did some splitting at that point. Next up, we want to change the values here in our flow card, so that rather than a 1 and a 0, which isn't very human friendly, very computer friendly, but not so human friendly, it says yes or no. And one of the ways we can do that is by double clicking in these values and saying yes. But hang on, if I press enter, I actually get an error coming up here saying that the value doesn't match the data type for this field. So let's undo that. And first, before we do that, we have to change the data type. So from a number to a string this time. And now we have the ability to double click in there and write the word yes for the 1 and change the 0 to a no. Okay, so we're nearly finished with this challenge. Let's just say that we changed our flow card to yes, no. We'll just do a yes/no there. So now we want to have two separate outputs for our yes and for our no. So I'm going to add in another clean step. And I'm just going to filter this clean step to just the yeses. So I go to that flow card field, I click on the yes value, and I look in my top bar here and say keep only. And that has meant that those nearly 4,000 rows has gone down to about 2,000 rows. So where I've only got the flow card equals yes value. I need to create a separate flow for my flow card equals no. So I come back to this yes no step and I add in a clean step after that. So at this point, this filter hasn't happened in this clean one. So I go and scroll along to my flow card and I see I still have yes and no there. So I'm able to choose the no's and keep only those. So I'm going to change that to be a no. So this is our yes and this is our, this is our yes and this is our no. And the only thing left is to output this data so that we can use it outside of Tableau Prep. So I'm just going to add in an output step here and change the name of my file to something like flowcard no, something like that. I'm going to change the data type to be a CSV, and then I can change the location of where that is stored if I would like to. Again, similarly, I'll just add in an output tool here as well, output step, and call this flowcard yes. Change it to a CSV just so that I can have a look at it afterwards, and then I could go and browse and find out where I want to save it, or I can leave it in the default location. But in order for that dataset to actually appear there, I need to actually hit the run button. So I can press this button here and that will run all the outputs. I can click just one of these two buttons and that will run the flow as well, but it will only run for that output. So I'm going to click the one at the top so it runs both outputs, and you can see that that took no time at all and those two outputs were created. So hopefully that was useful. Thanks very much for joining us for the first Preppin Data of the year, and thanks for watching.